Are you using positive thinking to try and create belief in yourself and it's just not working? Discover why that is and what it is you need to do to create unshakable belief in yourself. Welcome to the Heal the Hurt podcast. Remember when we were kids and we believed that anything was possible? We were going to be the first man or woman to do something really great. But then something happened. Something got in the way of living the life of greatness we know we were meant for. Well, it's now your turn to become the greatest version of yourself. And to achieve that, we will heal the hurt. You need more than just positive thinking to harness control of your body and your life. The mere thinking of positive thoughts will not necessarily have any impact on our lives at all. That's from Bruce Lipton, famed scientist, in his book, Biology of Belief. One of the biggest misconceptions in all of personal development and all of counseling and everything is to think positive. Well, that's why people can't believe in themselves. They're not getting the right information. So let's get you the right information. Let's bust that myth. And that's why you're not able to achieve what it is you want to achieve, because you're getting the incorrect information. The first thing to recognize is nearly every bit of information we ever take in into our brain, anything we see, touch, smell, taste, hear, whatever it may be, we have a feeling before it ever gets to thought. All right, I'll touch more on that. Think of what belief is anyway. It's not a thought, it's a feeling, right? When we believe something, we feel it in our soul. It's this radiation of electricity that runs through us. Thoughts are just numb and blank. There's nothing attached to it, right? So the process to believe is a feeling process, not a thinking process. And I use this example all the time. Think of it. If you played sports, took a test, went in for a job interview, we've all had the life experience of going to it, studying, being prepared, whatever it may be. And on our way there, we can feel this isn't going to go well. And what do we try and do? We talk positive. Everyone says, oh, be positive. Don't think about the negative. Switch. And it doesn't work. Our feeling stays the same. And we go in and we bomb it. We've also had the other experience with, it doesn't matter what we think. We're like, man, this is just going to work out. I'm going to play great. I'm going to get this job. I can feel it. I believe it. That's a feeling. It's not a thought. It's the biggest thing I'm trying to beat back in this industry. It's why people aren't improving is they keep thinking, and we've had this tired, really it's science. Science for decades, because they can't measure feelings, they just go, oh, feelings have nothing to do with anything. It's all thought-based. It's all cognition. But there's a reason cognition formed third in the progression of our brain. Instinct came first, then emotion, then cognition. Cognition is meant to support our intuition and emotion. It's not meant to lead it. The problem for all of us is we are trying to lead with cognition, and it robs us of our gifts. It robs us of the ability to believe in ourselves, okay? So what keeps us from believing? Well, right there, outdated information. The media keeps pushing it. Personal development keep pushing it. I had this in the greatness movement community. I had this member post something from a psychologist. And it was talking about people who can't achieve their dreams and procrastination and all that. And right there at the top, she's saying, the problem is your feelings. And I'm sitting there going, how is this woman in psychology today dispensing this information? She's not even up to date on the latest science. And so she's once again spreading the myth and actually shaming people, because that's what we've done for centuries is we've shamed and belittled emotions and said, they're the trouble. Well, the only reason they're trouble is because they're underdeveloped in all of us, because we've shamed and suppressed them and haven't taught people how to face them and become an expert in them. It's those that are experts in their emotion that can create belief. Because think of it, what's the zone? When any athlete talks about the zone, what are they talking about? They're talking about a feeling state. There's no thought. Gone. Thought is gone. When we are at our best, there is no thought. Yet everyone keeps trying to tell you to think different. No! Waste of time. I mean, sure, I encourage you to, think and say nice things to yourself. But only as a support system to create a feeling. But if you don't know what's generating the base feeling that has you at odds with yourself, no amount of positive thinking, as Bruce Lipton points out, no amount of positive thinking will ever change that. The solution, the answer is in feelings, 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 feelings. I can't say it enough. And here's what, this is part of the problem. This is new information. So the way you're taking this information in, it's confronting you. It's confronting your belief system. So you're actually having a feeling to hearing this information going, oh, he's wrong. No, I don't want to believe that. And we'll get to why that is and where that initial feeling came from. And why you're pushing away the latest science. This is why it's so hard for change. You look at politics, you look at COVID, you look at any of the Black Lives Matter, any of the social issues. What we're always up against with change is denial, a feeling of, oh my gosh, if I take in this new information, the feeling is bad because it attacks us. It feels like an insult. Oh, I should know this. I'm somehow incapable or not smart enough, or we have all these emotional judgments that we place on ourselves when we don't know the right answer, okay? So the biggest thing stopping people from believing themselves is outdated information and experts in the field who are giving you the wrong information. That's from the media to psychologists to personal development speakers, everybody. You're just getting the wrong information, and that's why you're struggling with it. It's not your fault because you're out here searching for answers, and they're not giving you the latest up-to-date information. So that's part of why you can't believe in yourself. The second thing is really defective reasoning, because as MIT discovered in 2012, MIT did a study, and they discovered that we store memories in our body. It's not some location in our brain, but we actually store memories in our body. Memories are feelings. They're not thoughts. We have an emotional reaction, and that emotion gets stored in our body. And so when you hear information, we're getting into the deeper reason why people can't believe in themselves. So when you hear this information and you feel a sense of, oh, I don't want to listen to Kenny. I don't know about this thought feeling thing. I'm going to push it away. What's happening is somewhere in your life, you were told you were wrong or imperfect, that you didn't have the right information, and you stored that insult, that feeling of being perfectly imperfect and not knowing the right thing, and that's what it's triggering. You're feeling that in your body. So right now as you're listening, if you haven't gone into such denial that you tuned out, feel where in your body are you feeling any sort of discomfort at the new information. That's where you're storing the original trauma. And see, that's what the defective reasoning comes from. See, because we all go through less than nurturing parenting, we all go through less than nurturing coaching and less than nurturing teachers. And, look, people are perfectly imperfect. And parenting, we just don't teach anyone how to be a parent. So the typical model of parenting, like I saw a meme, somebody on Facebook yesterday or the day before was talking about, how my mom slapped me, my mom taped my mouth shut, my mom made me pick a switch. In other words, I was beaten into suppression. And because we don't do that to kids anymore, that's why all this trouble is happening. Well, I know this person. I know that if you watch their life story, this person has had horrific relationships, always in turmoil, job, everything. Like the posts on this person's profile are pure chaos because this person suffered. That's all abuse. But they think, because that's what happens. We get trained in childhood. This is the way life works. It's okay to have these negative feelings, and so we go into denial and we flip them into something we can justify. But they keep resurfacing until we heal them. So our reasoning gets defective when information comes in because it goes back that sense of not believing in ourselves, it triggers a body memory. It triggers a memory which is stored in the body, and that comes to the surface, and now we commingle that previous emotional. See, basically what happens is in life, we have an emotional reaction to a situation, then we use words and thoughts to categorize it and define it. And that's why so many people try and tell you to change your story. It's your story. They want you to change the words. No, you have to change the emotional reaction, not just the words you use about the story. You have to be able to heal and change that feeling, not just change the words around it. It can have some effect. It can lighten some of the emotion, but ultimately the skill set is an emotional one, not a thought one, all right? Just changing the story might have some effect, but it won't heal it, all right? And so, like in this moment, you're hearing this new information. What's happening is those times in childhood when you were told you were wrong, because if you believe that thoughts are everything, in a sense, right now what's happening is you see me as your father or mother, whoever was your disciplinarian or whoever told you you were wrong. And so now that memory is being triggered. You're feeling it somewhere in your body. It's coming up, getting commingled, and now your reasoning, your thoughts are no, wrong, whatever they may be. And so our reasoning, our thought process gets defective because of the initial emotional moment that gets commingled, all right? And so we can't. So when you see politicians who can't listen to each other, what you're just seeing is two children, probably less than 7 years old, talking to each other. That's literally what's happening to all of us as adults. Most people, I don't mean to disparage us, but because we, for centuries, science and everybody else has put emotions down, we are all massively emotionally immature. Almost all of us. Our normal state is that of a 7-year-old. We're just reliving. Joe Dispenza talks about that because of the dynamics and all the science involved, most of us as adults are just reliving our childhood emotional states over and over. We think we're adults because of age, but in these emotional moments, we drop right back because of how the brain and body works. Like I've just told you the science of what's happening to you. And so the secret is we have to go heal all of that. So until we can reshape that conceptual memory and the emotional conceptual memory, we will be stuck reliving a lack of belief in ourselves. So where do we start? What's the solution? Well, the first thing is, as I say with most things, everything starts with feelings. Everything. You want to turn your life around? It's a feeling process, not a thinking process. And so I always tell people, go onto Google, type in feelings list, print off a list, and keep it with you. And as much as possible, make check marks throughout the day. Start learning to categorize your feelings. Over 70% of the population is completely detached. They don't even feel. They're so numb. They're so stuck in cognition. Well, really what's happened is they've had a traumatic experience because we've all been through a lot more trauma than we realize. And so most people are stuck in a level of PTSD where they're just repeating things. They can't ever get out of that emotion. And so their thoughts are the same, their actions are the same, the lack of belief, it's all being repeated. And so what they learn to do is dissociate from that emotional feeling, and they're just blank and numb, all right? So that's why I'm always pushing, you have to get a feelings list, you have to start tracking your feelings, you have to start becoming aware. So the first thing is track what you're feeling. The second thing is, as soon as you do that for a couple days, when you start to notice your feelings, then ask yourself, where in my body do I feel it? You're going to see chest, heart, shoulder, whatever. And you're also going to see it correlates to when you're sick, hurt. Wherever you're feeling that emotion, that's where your illness and disease is. That's a different podcast, but I should do one on that about how all illness and disease is just emotion. It's trauma trapped in the body. And the science is Candace Pert. Science is overwhelming, but that's a different one. Okay? So, feelings list. Track your feelings. 2, where in the body do I feel it? 3, this is where we get into the real work. Make a list of all those moments in childhood and throughout your life where somebody said, that who you were and your beliefs about yourself were wrong, okay? And we've all been through that. We've all had a parent who said, you're not, God, I was just, what was it I was watching? It was a guy, actually, he had joined an organization and spent years in it and found out the organization was a fraud. And he gets a message from his mother, and the first thing out of her mouth was, thank God you wasted 12 years of your life in that. Wham! He's in his 40s and she's still telling him that he has no belief in himself, that he's wrong. And our parents do that all the time. They constantly tell us how wrong and bad we are. Make a list of all the people in your life, most of them will be family related, who told you who you were and what your beliefs were wrong. Because that's what's triggering you in those moments. Like I said earlier, some games or tests, we have belief in ourselves and others we don't. When you don't, you're just reliving all of those childhood moments when you were told you shouldn't believe in yourself, that you were wrong. And so that's what we have to unpack. We have to go back and find all of those. And here's how we change them. And this is why changing the story doesn't work. This is why thoughts don't work. We have to create an emotional shift. And the way to create the emotional shift is to use our cognition to teach our emotion. All right? And so the way we do that is we go back to those moments, and you're going to have a list of 20, 40, 50, 100, many, many instances where you were told your belief about yourself was incorrect and wrong. And what you do is you go back to those moments. And now that you're the adult, you look at that parent, you look at that teacher, you look at that coach, brother, sister, whoever it was, and you say, I love you. I know you were doing the best you could, but this isn't true. This is your belief about yourself. This is your fear. This is your anger. And because for centuries we've never taught anybody about parenting or about how to deal with our emotions, I know you were just doing the best you could. Nobody taught you. I don't blame you. I don't fault you. But I will not carry it for you anymore. I wish this information had been out back then so you could have healed it and you would not have then projected it and dumped it into me. But it wasn't. Now I forgive you for that. And I know your intention was to love me and to make me better. But we know better now. We know that there's a different way. And so, like literally, I would always picture, I'd grab it out of my heart and I go, it was really my dad mostly. I go, Dad, I love you, but I'm not going to carry this for you anymore. And you see the smile as I do it. I'm reclaiming myself. I'm creating an emotional shift. I'm using cognition to activate an emotional shift, to rework a traumatic moment and free myself of the weight. I'm pulling it out of my body, saying no more. I won't house this in my body for you anymore. Your pain has no space in this house. This is my house. You have yours. And all of this, I know that it was dumped into you by your parents. And that's all we ever do. We are all just victims of victims. Right? Anyone who does anything to hurt us, it's just because they were victimized and they haven't healed it. That's all. It's nothing to throw them out or anything. It's just to recognize, they're victim, this is how they're victim, how they were victimized. They're just passing it down. But now that I'm an adult, I get to choose to no longer be the victim. I get to choose to take responsibility. It doesn't matter. Even if your parents are alive and they choose not to take responsibility, it's their life. They get to decide if they're not going to go learn about this stuff and they're going to stay stuck in their pain. But I don't have to. I don't have to anymore, and I'm not going to. And so we take those moments and we give them back to the person. And that creates a completely new emotional marker in our body. And that's the final step. Now we sit in those moments when we did believe in ourselves, the moment we just created of where we took a non-belief situation and we created belief, and now we feel it. Like, let your body, like I just got chills. I do this so much, like it's just like, all I have to do is mention it and it just, my body just reacts. It just catches on fire. And so create the new emotional pathway for your brain and body that has belief. That's how you take an old emotional memory, you shift it to a new emotional memory. Now, when I take in information, I can keep my belief. That's the emotion that fires. That's why thought doesn't work. Thoughts can't change that. That's an electrical impulse, a chemical reaction inside your brain and body. Well, not only, but emotions are the single greatest transmitter of chemicals in our body, and they are what create who we are. Our thoughts don't create us. Our emotions, the emotions that are tied to the thoughts, is who we become, not our thoughts themselves. That's the misconception. The answer is always in turning around your emotions. When you do that, your thoughts will change, your actions will change. And from that place, you can have unshakable belief in yourself.